I'm Tanika, and I'll be discussing the rise of Canadian electric vehicles. To give an overview of the industry, electric vehicles have become popularized globally over the past few years as it's a developing market. Electric vehicles are seen as a substitute good for gasoline cars, as it's believed that while they're more expensive upfront, they become cheaper in the long run compared to the constant investment that has to be given into the gas for a gasoline car. Electric vehicles are also seen as a more environmentally conscious way to travel around the same way that people are used to traveling. The popularization of electric vehicles also expands consumer options and company opportunity as they're given the choice to invest or to buy an electric vehicle or a gasoline vehicle. Many countries are creating their own electric vehicles. To illustrate this, the price averages of electric vehicles sold in Canada are as follows. For a Canadian-made electric vehicle, it costs about $40,000, and this is a local good. And for Chinese electric vehicles, which is a foreign good sold and imported to Canada and sold here, it is $15,000, which illustrates there's a very big disparity between the cost of a Canadian electric vehicle and a Chinese electric vehicle. Um, as discussed in Mayman 2025, to respond to this, the Canadian government put a 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles in August 2024. They did this because since the Chinese electric vehicles are so much cheaper than the Canadian vehicles, since the price is so low, the demand for these Chinese electric vehicles was high. So they imposed the tariffs in hopes to make the price more leveled. Since they imposed a 100% tariff, the price of the Chinese electric vehicles became from 15,000 to 30,000. And since there is a disparity in the quality of a Chinese electric vehicle and a Canadian electric vehicle, people were not so drawn to the Chinese electric vehicle anymore, as the price they're paying doesn't match the quality that they're getting. They did this also to reduce the competition and promote the domestic market, since there's a better quality in the Canadian good and there's not such a disparity between the prices anymore. People are much more likely to buy the Canadian electric vehicle. Some economic impacts of imposing the tariffs are as follows. So there's an impact on supply and demand of these electric vehicles, both Chinese and Canadian. So the supply for the Chinese electric vehicles is going to decrease because of price expectations. Once the Canadian government put in these tariffs, the Chinese importers are going to understand, or Chinese businesses and importers are going to understand that there's a price expectation that the cars are going to double. So the interest in these cars is going to decrease. So they're going to decrease their supply to match this, as they expect there'll be less interest and less demand for the Chinese electric vehicles in Canada due to the tariffs. The supply for the Canadian electric vehicles is going to increase due to the same reason. They're expecting that since the price is going to double for the Chinese electric vehicles, people who are looking to buy an electric vehicle are not going to buy a Chinese electric vehicle. They're going to buy a Canadian electric vehicle. So these Canadian producers, they're going to increase their supply to match the expected demand. There's also going to be an increase in the number of firms in the industry, as they're going to need people to create batteries, to create tires, and also just more companies to create these electric vehicles to meet the expected demand. And for the demand of the Chinese electric vehicles and the Canadian electric vehicles, for the Chinese electric vehicles, there's going to be a decrease in demand because they're going to be seen as too expensive when they're competing with Canada's quality. As now, people are seeing the price of the related good, which is the Canadian electric vehicles. The demand for Canadian electric vehicles is going to increase as it's going to appear cheaper as a better deal compared to the Chinese cars being 30,000 compared to how they were 15,000 before. 40,000 not going to seem so expensive anymore, especially for the quality that they're getting. There's also going to be an effect on, there was an effect on the GDP. Before, in the second quarter of 2024, before the tariffs were imposed, the sales of new vehicles were down, according to Statistics Canada. This is possibly due to the fact that people weren't buying they weren't buying Canadian electric vehicles, they were buying Chinese electric vehicles. So there wasn't stimulation of our domestic market. There was only a stimulation of an increase of imports and stuff like Chinese electric vehicles. But after the tariffs were imposed in the third and fourth quarter of 2024, household spending rose 2.1 since the second quarter. This is due to the purchase of vehicles, possibly due to the fact that the tariffs were imposed, so people were more drawn to purchasing Canadian electric vehicles. There's also starting to be and going to be a shift in employment post tariff. There's going to have to be new job opportunities due to the fact that electric vehicles have different needs than a regular gas powered vehicle, as they need more heavy duty tires, they need batteries, and they need different raw materials. This is expected to create 300,000 green jobs from 2023 to 2030. All of this is according to GODRA 2024. And there's going to be a different array of requirements. So it's not just specialized people or people who are just regular workers getting employment. It's going to be people with a high school diploma, people with specialized training, and all of this will combat structural unemployment since a new market is opening up while also expanding from another market. There's going to be a more appropriate match of skills and jobs. Some final thoughts on this. To summarize, so Canada put tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles to protect the domestic market, increase demand for Canadian electric vehicles, increase GDP, increase employment, and increase the domestic market. Some positive effects of this are an increase in new Canadian electric vehicle purchase and an increase in household spending. Also, the beginning and future creation of 30,000 green jobs. My opinion on this is that electric vehicles are the future. I think it will only be a matter of time until you'll see more electric vehicles on the road than gas powered cars. And I think that it's only reasonable that Canadian producers wanted to capitalize on the market and not let China have so much other control over it due to their low prices. So the tariffs were logical, as it gave the Canadian market many benefits, as they were able to compete with the Chinese electric vehicles. A recommendation, according to Mayman 2025, is that Canada implement the tariff for 5 years, so they have the time to match how quickly they produce them and the materials they use, so they can match the Chinese prices and then remove them once they can match what the Chinese electric vehicles are offering, because this allows even competition and a diversified market. The forecast for electric vehicles. So the mobility sector, according to Electric Mobility Canada 2025, the mobility sector is expected to increase 1% annually from 2023 to 2030 and 1.4% annually from 2030 to 2040. And contributions to the e-mobility center are going to increase to the power of 10 by 2040 in only 15 years. And there's expected to be an inverse trend for gas and oil. So electric vehicles are going to be much more prominent in everyday life. Thank you for your time.